When she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "We need time apart," it was like a match had been struck inside my chest. Not because I didn't see it coming. Believe me, I'd felt the distance growing like a crack spreading across glass. But because of the cold, almost casual way she said it, no tears, no hesitation. Just a line delivered like she was ordering coffee. And I remember thinking in that exact moment, fine, if you want space, I'll give you space, so wide it'll feel like the Grand Canyon opened up between us. But I wasn't walking out empty-handed. I don't know if you've ever felt that sudden clarity, where your anger doesn't explode outward, but condenses into something razor-sharp. That's what hit me. And the wildest part, I didn't even yell. I didn't slam the door. I just nodded like I was taking notes at a meeting, walked past her, and started packing. Not just my things, but the pieces of our life she thought she could keep. The house, mine. The dog, mine. And by the end of it, even her side dude's car, yeah, the guy she thought I didn't know about, ended up in my driveway. Now you're probably wondering how the hell a man can pull off something like that without it blowing up in his face. Trust me, it wasn't some spur-of-the-moment stunt. It was months of quiet observation, small suspicions piling up like dust in the corners of a room. Until it was undeniable. I'd caught the late-night texts, the work meetings that made no sense, the perfume that wasn't hers, lingering on my shirt after I picked it up from the back seat of her car. I knew long before she had the guts to spit out her little "we need time apart" speech, that there was someone else. Here's where things get interesting. Instead of confronting her in the cliché way, screaming, crying, demanding answers, I played it cool. I took note of names, times, places. I figured out the guy's car, his routines, even how often he parked a little too close to our house when he thought I wasn't around. See, people always think revenge is about rage, but the truth is, real revenge is about patience, about knowing when to pull the trigger. So when she handed me that line, she basically gave me the green light. You want time apart? Okay, but you don't get to keep the home I paid the mortgage on, the dog I rescued from the shelter, or parade your shiny new boyfriend around in a car he clearly can't afford. No, if you want a new life, then start fresh, because everything you've been standing on up until now is about to collapse. I remember the look on her face when she realized I wasn't arguing. That confused half smile like she thought maybe I'd already been planning my exit. And in a way I had, not leaving her that part I hadn't fully committed to yet, but preparing myself for the day she confirmed what I already knew. I walked through the house calmly, methodically gathering the documents I'd neatly tucked away months before. Mortgage papers, receipt records, with my name on them. Everything lined up in my favor. And when I say lined up, I don't mean by luck. I mean I had been laying that groundwork from the start. Call it paranoia, call it foresight, but I'd always believed in covering my bases. The first thing I did was secure the house. She thought because she decorated it, because she filled it with her plants and her little knickknacks, that it was ours. But legally, financially, it was mine. Every cent of the down payment, every mortgage's installment, my bank account, my credit. She'd contributed exactly nothing but candles and arguments about curtain colors. So while she was busy scrolling through Instagram, posting self-care quotes, I was at the notary shifting things in ways she couldn't undo. The dog was even easier. His adoption papers had my signature, my ID, my name. When I scooped him up that night, he wagged his tail like he knew he was coming home for real this time, not stuck between two people pretending to be happy. And here's the thing about dogs. They don't lie. They don't betray you with secret text messages or sneaky business trips. They either love you or they don't. And he'd always been mine. Now the car. Oh, the car. That's where people usually lean in when I tell this story. Because how does a man take another man's ride and walk away smiling? Simple. Side dude made the fatal mistake of leaving it on my property more than once. Technically, legally, you abandon something on private property long enough, the lines get real blurry about ownership. Combine that with the fact that I'd been documenting every time it was there, along with the little visits he paid while I was supposedly at work, and let's just say I had leverage. The kind of leverage that makes someone hand over keys, rather than face what I could bring to light. But here's what nobody tells you about pulling a move like this. It's not the stuff you take that satisfies you. It's the silence afterward. The quiet when she realized her safety net was gone. That she wasn't walking into a fresh start, but standing in the wreckage of her own choices. And the craziest part, I didn't even do it to punish her. Not really. I did it because for the first time in years, I saw a way out. A way to take back control, to stop living in the shadow of her moods, her secrets, her lies. And yeah, I'll admit, watching her side dude Uber to work for the next few weeks, while his car sat in my driveway, was just the cherry on top. But this isn't just about revenge. This is about the strange liberation that comes when you stop begging someone to choose you, and you start choosing yourself instead. I'd been bending, compromising, shrinking myself to fit into a version of love she wanted. And when she finally said those words, "We need time apart," it was like she handed me the permission slip I didn't know I was waiting for. The days that followed were strange, surreal even. I wasn't grieving the way you'd expect. I wasn't replaying our memories like a sad movie. Instead, I was rediscovering things I'd let go of. Cooking meals without criticism, playing fetch with the dog in the yard we actually owned, sleeping through the night without wondering if her phone lighting up beside her was just a friend. It wasn't sadness, it was relief, and it hit me hard. Of course, she didn't just vanish. She tried calling. She tried showing up, demanding explanations, tossing out half apologies, mixed with half accusations. But I'd learned a long time ago that you don't negotiate with people who treat your loyalty like currency. So I stayed calm. I stayed polite. And I stayed gone. And yet, as much as this story could just end there, me walking away with the house, the dog, and her side dude's car, it doesn't. Because real life isn't that clear. There were twists, complications, people who took sides, people who shocked me with their loyalty or their betrayal. And if you think she just let it go, you don't know how messy people get when their secrets are dragged into the daylight. I'll tell you about all of that. The calls, the drama, the fallout, the unexpected alliances. But that's the second half of the story. For now, just know this. When someone tells you we need time apart, sometimes the best thing you can do is give them exactly what they asked for. Just not in the way they expected.
I didn't hear from her for 2 days after I left.
2 whole days where my phone didn't buzz with her name lighting up the screen. No footsteps pacing through the house. No fake love yous dropped between arguments. Just quiet. And in that silence, I finally understood something I should have seen years earlier. When a person can't even give you honesty, what you're holding on to isn't love. It's an illusion. But illusions don't die easy. On the 3rd day, the storm started. She showed up at the house, banging on the door like the place still belonged to her. I didn't even open it. I let her voice echo through the walls, while I sat in the living room. The dog curled up at my feet, tail thumping every time I reached down to scratch his head. Her shouts turned from demanding to pleading, then finally to sobbing. And as cruel as it might sound, I didn't move, because I'd given her everything once. My loyalty, my trust, my patience, and she gambled it away for a man who couldn't even keep track of his own car. When she realized I wasn't answering, she left. But the silence didn't last. The calls started. Long voicemails where she tried every tactic, apologies dripping with half-truths, anger that I'd taken the house, confusion about the dog, disbelief about the car. She swore she never meant to hurt me, that the other guy didn't mean anything, that we could work it out if I just gave her another chance. But if he didn't mean anything, why was his cologne still soaked into the back seat of her car? Why was his number the one she texted at 2 a.m. while I was asleep, next to her? People always say it didn't mean anything, until you remind them that you don't risk everything for nothing. Word spread faster than I expected. Friends, family, co-workers, suddenly everyone knew. And here's where the real mask slipped. I learned exactly who was in my corner, and who was secretly rooting for her, all along. Some of our mutual friends reached out to me quietly, admitting they'd suspected something was off, but didn't want to get involved. Others, they sided with her, painting me as cold, heartless, taking everything out of spite. But spite wasn't what drove me. Survival did. And if protecting my home, my dog, and yes, even humiliating her affair partner in the process, looked like spite from the outside, so be it. The best twist came a week later though. Her side dude, let's just call him Ryan, showed up at my driveway. He wasn't angry. He wasn't yelling. He was embarrassed, desperate, even. He wanted his car back. I leaned against the hood, arms crossed, and told him straight, not until I decide you get it. His face twisted, but he didn't fight, because he knew I had photos, Screenshots, timestamps. Enough to ruin not just his relationship, but his reputation at work, with his family, with anyone who mattered. He thought he was just messing around with a married woman. He didn't expect to run into someone who kept receipt. And here's the funny thing. I didn't even want his car. It wasn't about the vehicle. It was about control. About flipping the script so he knew what it felt like to be powerless in someone else's game. Eventually I gave it back, but not before he spent weeks scrambling for rides, covering up lies, and realizing that messing with someone else's relationship can cost you more than you bargained for. She, meanwhile, tried everything to claw her way back. Flowers left at the door, notes slipped under the mat, a long tearful message about how she'd started therapy, how she finally understood what she'd done. But here's the problem with apologies that come too late. They're not about regret, they're about consequences. She wasn't sorry she cheated. She was sorry she got caught and lost the comfort of the life I built. I didn't respond. Not once, not to her texts, not to her tears, not even when mutual friends tried to mediate. Because some things don't deserve negotiation. Some things are just done. And yet here's where the story surprised even me. I started to feel lighter, not just because I'd walked away with what mattered, but because I wasn't carrying her lies anymore. I had space to think, to breathe, to rediscover who I was outside of her. I fixed up the house, not with the trendy decor she liked to show off on Instagram, but with things that felt like me. I started jogging again, playing guitar in the evenings, taking road trips with the dog in the passenger seat, his head out the window. The freedom was intoxicating, but more than that, it was clarifying. For years, I thought I needed her approval to feel whole. I thought love meant bending until you broke, forgiving until you forgot yourself. But when I stood in the ashes of what we'd burned, I realized something brutal and liberating. Love doesn't survive on sacrifice alone. It survives on respect. And once that's gone, everything else is just noise. Months passed. She moved in with Ryan for a while, but I heard through the grapevine it didn't last. Something about trust issues. Ironic, isn't it? You build a relationship on betrayal, and suddenly you're shocked when betrayal shows up at your door again. Last I heard, she was bouncing between apartments, chasing some version of herself she'd lost years ago. Me, I kept the house, kept the dog, kept my peace, and every time I walked past that old driveway spot where Ryan used to park, I couldn't help but grin. Not because I destroyed them. Truth is, they destroyed themselves. I just made sure I wasn't standing in the rubble when it collapsed. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone listening to this, it's this. When someone tells you they need time apart, believe them. Take it at face value. But don't just give them space. Take back the space they've been renting in your life. For free. Because sometimes, losing someone isn't the tragedy you think it is. Sometimes, it's the start of finally finding yourself. And me. I found myself in the quiet, in the wag of my dog's tail, in the freedom of waking up in a home that was finally mine. Not ours, not hers, just mine. I didn't just leave her behind that night. I left behind the version of myself that tolerated half love and half truth. And trust me, that's worth more than any house, any dog or any car.